My name is Jeff Taylor. I'm the IT Operations Manager at Frank Miller Lumber Company. I'm also a Master Leadership Certified Coach, Speaker, Trainer. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to Live to Lead Randolph County 2023. We're thrilled to bring this great program of personal growth and leadership to Randolph County for the fourth consecutive year. And of course, we don't do this alone. We couldn't do it without the immense generosity of our sponsors. And almost immediately after we opened up sponsorships for this year's Live to Lead, Silvertown Mint stepped up, asked to be our event sponsor, and we thank them so much. We want to thank our breakfast sponsor, Marketplace Chaplains, for bringing us this great breakfast this morning, supplied by the Grazing Barn. Thank you for that. We want to thank our lunch sponsor, Reed Health, for bringing us our lunch today, which is going to be supplied by Roots by Tree Hill Farms. So thank you to Reed Health. And we want to thank each and every one of our general sponsors, without whom we could not bring you this great program. We want to thank Carta. We want to thank Cardinal Ethanol, Chicago's Pizza, the City of Union City, Cobalt Civil, Everhard Advisors, First Merchants Bank, G-Slate Chocolatier, Matching Award, McGowan Braybender, Ohio Valley Gas, Old National Bank, Paul Faddis, Randolph County YMCA, the Horton Group, Life Foundation, U.S. Aggregates, Watermark Group, and Wix Pies. Thank you to all of our sponsors. On the subject of not being able to do it without him, and I won't embarrass her by making her stand up because she would hurt me when I got back to the office later. But I want to thank our Director of Marketing and Public Relations at Frank Miller, Chelsea Timmerman, who works incredibly hard on Live to Lead every single year and who makes all of this happen. Thank you very much to Chelsea. We also want to say a word of thanks to our ownership of Frank Miller, our chairman and our vice chairman, Susan Morgan and Martha Mathias, who are all in on our Maxwell program. And they support us, they give us all the support we could ask for. Many, many thanks to Susan and Martha. It is now my honor and my privilege to introduce the president of Silvertown Mint, today's event sponsor, Mr. Jamie Meadows. Jamie's an active member of the Winchester community where he and his wife Kathy and daughter Mackenzie have called home for the past 16 years. Jamie graduated from Cincinnati Bible College with a Bachelor of Science in Christian Ministries. He served as the youth minister at First Church of Christ in Lynn until 1994, when he and Kathy moved to Florida to accept a new role as minister of youth and families at First Christian Church in Clearwater. In 1997, Jamie joined the Home Depot, beginning his career in business management. After setting up and managing many new stores throughout Florida and Indianapolis, Jamie joined Ready Set Companies, managing the growth of one of Home Depot's largest and fastest growing suppliers. Jamie served as president of Silvertown Mint since 2016, and also serves as executive vice president of Kmart Precious Metals, a publicly and one of America's Fortune 500 companies. Jamie and his family own and operate J.K. Mack Construction and Remodeling, a local business that's been rehabilitating existing homes and building new homes in Winchester since 2018. Jamie serves on multiple community boards, including Eastern Indiana Works and Randolph County United. He and Kathy most enjoy spending time with Mackenzie and watching her excel at school and club sports. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a big round of applause to Mr. Jamie Meadows.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome. So I may not need this, but we'll keep it down here a little lower. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Steve James. Steve has been married to his wife, Laura, there we go, for the past 36 years. They have 3 children, a son-in-law, and a grandson. They have lived in Union City for the past 8 years and call Randolph County home. Steve graduated from the University of Michigan with a bachelor's degree in business administration and later received his master's degree in manufacturing management from Kettering University. He spent the first 27 years of his career with General Motors, with the last being the CFO of the Duramax diesel engine joint venture between GM and Isuzu. Steve came to Frank Miller as the CFO and assumed the presidency and CEO position in 2015. He also holds the same titles for Miller Mathias and Moray Holdings Incorporated, who are the new owners of Frank Miller Lumber and Ghislaine Chocolatier. Steve is a certified John Maxwell coach, trainer, and speaker. He is active in the community as he has served as the chairman of the RCU board and the president of the YMCA board of directors, of which he is both still on each of those boards. In his free time, Steve likes fishing, traveling, and spending time with his family. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Steve James.
Do I need this? Because if I don't, I don't want to use it. Well, again, it's going to be a great day today. Thank all of you for coming. Thank Jamie for that introduction. And thank Silvertown Mint for being our event sponsor. Also, as Jeff said, Reed Health is our lunchtime sponsor, and it's catered by Roots Deli, along with our Marketplace Chaplains group out there that sponsor our breakfast. Breakfast catered by the Crazy Mark. Thank you. Hey, as a token of our appreciation for all the sponsors, and again, that Jeff listed there, if you see there's little candy dishes on the thing. My son's company, Happily Ever Crafter, made those, and they're for each sponsor to take home after the event today. Just get with Chelsea, and then she will get your name down to make sure that you got it. Is it okay if I do a little lesson before we get the panel started? If that's all right with everybody? Good deal? All right. What I want to do is really kind of lead up to the panel discussion and have an opportunity to really get you guys excited for it, all right? So with that, I'm going to give you the easiest thing you can do as a leader. But I must warn you, it's also the most difficult thing that you'll ever try to master. All right, you guys ready for that?
Yes.
All right, good deal. So, if you want to lead well, you're going to have to actively listen. Now, it's easy to say that, right? Because everybody says, okay, I got to listen for understanding. But that's really not how our brain works, right? Our brain works in the fact that we are listening to respond. Because when we hear something, it's going to trigger an emotion, an event, and whatnot. And sometimes we can't even wait for that person to finish their sentence, right, before we start blurting out what we want to blurt out. Our brain is also a pretty neat machine, right? It's pretty awesome. Because not only is it listening to respond, it actually is judging as well. And I think a lot of us don't even realize that we're judging. But what happens is that if the person says something to our truth, right, we're like, okay, all right, yeah, we're friends, we're pals, we're buddies. But what happens when they don't speak our truth? Well, we tend to want to push that aside, right? We want to dismiss that statement. And again, if they say it too often, we start dismissing that person. And just as an example, look at former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, right? His truth was not the Democrats' truth. His truth was not the hardline Republicans' truth. And that he is no longer the Speaker of the House. So you can understand how America is today, and the fact that if you don't speak our truth, we kind of dismiss you. So I'm going to give you some secret sauce, right, to do that. The secret sauce is when you hear a statement that says, it doesn't agree with my truth, ask yourself this question. What has happened in their world that would make them say that? And if you're really courageous enough, have a conversation with that person and understand why they say their truth, right? Doesn't mean that you have to accept their truth as yours, but what it does do is allow you to have a conversation with them. And the only way that we're going to make things better is having conversations and collaboration. So the next time when you hear the panel speak their truths, don't automatically dismiss them because either they're young or they're old. Somewhere in the middle. I don't know. But ask yourselves, why would they say what they say? And then have that conversation. With that, folks, we can actually help our community, help our state, and help our country. All right, so I want to really get to the panel discussion here, and so we'll kind of get to it in a minute. So again, as you've noticed, if you were here last year, we've kind of upgraded the panel, but sadly, we've downgraded the moderator. Right? The C and I have switched places, just in case, for those that you didn't know that, right? But with your help, I am positive that you can help me get to the level that CN was last year. So, again, we have the three groups still. What I'll call down there is my lightly seasoned high school group, right? And then here we have my moderately seasoned professionals, right? And over here, let's just call them spicy. Let's just call them spicy. So what I would like them to do is introduce themselves, tell them what they do, and then what's something that they want the other generations to know about them specifically. And I will start out my dear friend, Cian Banks.
One of the young ones.
I'm just going to say, what they need to know me, I don't know technology. That's what you need to know about me. I love Jeff said, just turn it on. Just sit back down there and
There's not a clicker for a pen.
stay in your truth, stay in your space. Let me live my truth. It was harder than just turning it on. So I'm CM Bales. I live in Randolph County. I'm now a remote worker, and my position, I'm Director of Public Policy and Alliance Initiatives for the Indiana Alliance of YMCAs. And so prior to that, I worked in Randolph County United for about 2.5 years, and then I was with the Randolph County YMCA for 21 years. And I think the other generations, just to know about the spicy side and the more seasoned side about me, I think be careful to never say never. I graduated from Randolph Southern in 1989. Since I'm seasoned, I might just say my age, right? So in 89, and went off to Purdue and said I would never live in Randolph County. I would never marry a farmer, and I would never drive a minivan. And I have done all three. Thankfully, I am beyond the minivan stage, and I now have a different vehicle, but I was a proud minivan driver for a while. So never, just be very careful when you say never.
Okay, I'm not very good at this, so anyway. I'm Cheryl Fisher. I own Match and Ward Insurance. I've been in Randolph County all my life. I have 2 wonderful sons and 4 wonderful grandchildren. My oldest son is a teacher in administration at Union City High School, and my youngest son is in management at Randolph. So very proud that they're still here and contributing to our community. And I have worked all 3 of my jobs on the downtown square in Winchester. So I have not moved much, but I have been around a lot of places. But I went to Stance Jewelry, which is now Webb Jewelers, and I worked at the courthouse for 12 years, and then I started at Match and Ward Insurance and took over ownership in 2013. And what I would say to the younger generation is be patient with us, but we do want to learn from you. We look forward to learning from you, and we look forward to teaching you our aspect of things.
Again, I'm Jamie Meadows, President of Silvertown Mint, and also as mentioned earlier, our family has a construction business building new houses here in Winchester. But so I, as was mentioned earlier, graduated from Cincinnati Bible College and spent the first 6 years vocational in my work career as a youth minister and with families as well. And so that really moved me later into ministry more directly in the world, if you will, in business management. And my view of things has always been that my job is still, I'm a minister. And my role is to help support and guide people and encourage people. And I have the opportunity to do it today in different various businesses. And so I love what I do and the people I get to work with every day, and just the encouragement that you get from smiling at people and then smiling back. And so the one thing that I would want to make sure that everyone understands and knows about me is, and my friend Paul says it best many times we talk about it, is I'm in chapter 51 of my life. Each of you are in whatever chapter you are right now, but you can say that if you'd like. But, you know, for those that are in chapter 16, 17, 18, or whatever, is I had that chapter as well in my life. And so what you see today is a culmination of the experiences that I had in all those prior chapters of life, which were very different than what you see today. So just keep a perspective and understand and know that we're not trying to be who somebody else is today. Our goal is ultimately to continue to grow and become whoever we're meant to be at each chapter throughout our life. So.
Hello. Mallory Burns. I work with McGowan Bravender. I'm an employee benefits consultant. Prior to this, I was a nursing home administrator. And prior to that, I was in college, so I'm the lightly seasoned group. And I really love my job. I have 2 kids, Charlotte and Lauren, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and my husband works at Wind Supply in Dayton. The thing I guess I'd say that people should know about me is faith is my most important thing in my life, and then my family, and then my job.
I just want to point out how quickly she turned the microphone on. That's the.
Thank you.
Sam, we got your back. That's why we're here, collaborating.
That's right, exactly.
I'm Jennifer Housel. I'm the HR and IT director for Cobalt Civil. I am a transplant. I did not grow up here. I met my husband at college in Fort Wayne. We've been here for just shy of 7 years. I wouldn't change it, and just like Cian was saying, he said I would never move back to Randolph County, and here we are. So, never say never. Prior to here, I worked at Steel Dynamics for 10 years as a systems analyst, working on software. And one of the things I would say to the younger generation is never be afraid of change. My degree is in software, and I am now HR. So just follow whatever your passion is, and those passions are going to change over time. So that's my little tidbit.
My name is Karen Burge. I own Slave Beauty Lounge. First of all, I want you, the thing I want people to know about me is Karens are not Karens. We're not. My husband is a foreman at AEP here in town. I have 4 teenagers, which uniquely qualifies me to understand this generation, I believe. I did say I own Slave Beauty Lounge. And we also, I think that most millennials do not like public speaking, so.
Hi, I'm Jalissa McCord. I go to high school at Union, and I'm a senior. I'm a cheerleader, and I do Newcastle Career Center for Dental. I think something the older generation should know about me is even when it seems like we're not listening or like we're just blowing you guys off, we really are, and we look up to you guys a lot.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wagon. I'm a junior at Winchester here in town. In my free time, I spend a lot of time in different clubs and sports. And something that the lightly seasoned group has in common is that we're not as life experienced. So whenever working on a project with the spicy group, is that what we're So whenever we things that they're doing in work that we can also implement in our lives.
Hi, my name is Noah Buchek. I attend Monroe Central High School in Parker City, Indiana. And if we're naming occupations, I work at Chick-fil-A Muncie. I don't see if that's relevant, but I thought it'd be a fun tidbit. And I graduated from Little Learners Preschool, so I got something. I participate in an array of activities ranging from Spanish club to FCA to track and field. And if I had to give one piece of advice to really any generation, is just to be yourself. I mean, if you're not yourself, then you just aren't living the one life that you have. It's just, some people live their whole life without really realizing who they truly are. And it's just powerful to embrace that fact.
My name's Audrey Black. I'm a senior at Union City Senior High School, and I'm in pretty much everything, so I'm not going to sit here and list all of it. But currently, I'm employed as the city manager's intern, and I am also a DECA state officer. My piece of advice would be that there are 3 different groups represented here, but we're really all one group. We all are, Randolph County members, and that's kind of what's important. So.
Very good.
I gave you guys my microphone.
So I'll throw this up since the mic's still, well, I think I got a mic down there. Talk about what your biggest challenge is with the other generations. You guys want to start us off?
Okay. I think I belong in the spicy group with my technology. But I think the biggest challenge when working with other generations is that people assume that our generation is maybe not the best generation, that we don't really know as much because of technology. But I think that it's important to remember that the younger generation still has a lot to bring to the table, even if we aren't seen as the best generation there is.
Since we're referring to them as the spicy generation, what I want to say is that I don't think it's fair to assume that people of the spicy generation don't know how to operate technology and keep up with modern times. My grandma FaceTimed me the other day. I didn't know she knew how to do that, but she Googled it. So the truth is that I don't think it's fair to stereotype people of the spicy generation as incapable or unable to keep up with modern events and with modern technological advances.
I agree with Audrey. I agree with Audrey because our group may seem like we're not as life experienced, which we're not, but we still have a lot of modern and up-to-date ideas that we can bring to the table, and I think that can really help in any project.
I think something that I struggle with, with the older generation, is just feeling a little bit nervous, thinking they might be hard-headed, but when you actually work with them, it helps out a lot because we have different experiences in life. So it's just we bring different things to this table.
So I think one of the biggest things is that the spicy generation are hard-headed and they don't want to communicate, and that what are they called? The little spicies.
New name, Little Spicy.
The non-spicies. That they're lazy because they know how to work smarter and not harder. And I don't think either of them are that way, so I don't know what to say about us.
You can do that. So one of the stereotypes that I deal with often is that the millennial generation and the youngins, I'll call you youngins, are lazy and they don't want to work. Well, there's always going to be that type in every single generation. We come across them. There's bad apples everywhere, so we should not stereotype it to just one age group. And with that, you have to know how to motivate those people that you see as lazy or don't want to work. Just because you see them that way does not mean that they're always going to be that way. You have the power to enable them and motivate them, have that conversation and see what their inner motivation is, because everybody has one, and you just have to find it. And some people come from different backgrounds that haven't had that person bring them along that way. So that's why all of us are here as leaders, is to make that happen.
Okay. Well, what I see as difficult sometimes working with other generations is, I mean, the work part of it is very easy to relate to people. We all understand the work. But most of the time when you're connecting with people, you're connecting about your life outside of work. So I think that the biggest gap for some of the generations, at least for me and maybe the younger generation, is that big life experience that happens with marriage and kids. And so that's kind of the big gap. It's like relating on those pieces of it. But the work side of it, everybody can kind of relate on that piece, I think, and find commonalities, find people's strengths. It's more outside of the work conversation to me.
Still on? So we didn't turn it off, so we knew how to. That's experience, right? So I also have a teenage daughter. She's a senior this year, and so it's a constant challenge for me of making sure I know how to connect there, or at least still learning how to. But I think one of the biggest challenges for me personally is I think I'm always trying to kind of second guess or help when I see things of whatever she might be getting ready to get into. Experience tells us we often think just because we did this, that means they're going to do this, make the same mistake or whatever. And so I think my daughter tells me often, she's like, wait a minute, Dad, slow down. Is this a life lesson? Because if it is, I don't want to hear it right now. So I think for me, the challenge and what I try to do is pick my moments to make sure that they're very meaningful and really important ones. And only interject at those times that it really, really matters, and it could be a safety issue or something else. And to understand that, as youngins, the less seasoned, they've got to live their life. And some of that's making mistakes as well. And so I think for us as an older generation, we have to allow them the opportunity to do that, just like we did as well. And sometimes that means there's going to be some pain that they'll go through, but we have to be here to help them pick up when they move on.
Yeah, I'll just continue with that. Just remember we were in your shoes at one time in our lives. It's been a long time ago, but just learn to adapt. And we've gone through a lot of changes in our own lives, and you're going to go through those changes as well. Just like they said, never say never, but just realize that why we try to instill our wisdom on you is because we have been there and realize what you're going through. But also, you guys are going through a different phase in this world than we ever went through, so you're teaching us as well.
So I think if I got to reflect on a question and think back of the times I've worked with the different generations through my career is when I reflect on the times I failed, which was many, it was those moments when I was not suspending my own mental model, right? Our mental models, we all have them, it's based on our experiences. And I think that when I projected my own mental models onto the younger generations and then judged them based on my own experiences, that's when it would falter. I remember vividly one time in a child care, I grew up on a farm and, Gen Xers were known for our work ethic and just, we work all the time, right? And I couldn't understand why some of the workers, it's like time's up, they're going home. I'm like, well, what are they doing? 12 hours isn't over yet. And one of my close friends who's also seasoned, it's like, they have a life balance. We need to learn from them. And that was many years, and that really flipped me of valuing that and not seeing, younger generations as lazy or whatever. It's just seeing, can I understand their mental model? Why did they grow up in? What are their experiences? And what can I learn from them? And that failure really helped me.
And I think that's really key, as they've talked about it here and really throughout, is that we all fail. Right? All of us fail. As the spicy generation, right, we don't want to see them fail. Right? It hurts us, as Jamie said, it gives us pain. but also they have to learn as well. And I think that's really the big gap there, right? That one of the lessons from today is that you're going to have to let them experience things themselves so they have that life experience. Because just from you telling them that it's a life experience, they don't know that, right? They can't get that model in their head. So again, I think those were excellent points from all the things there. So the next question I really want to ask, John says it marks a big step in your development when you come to realize that other people can help you do a better job than you could do alone, right? What if we collaborated with different generations? How would that impact our generation? So I'm going to go with this group first, or maybe I'll go with the middle group and let them answer first. How would it impact your generation if you collaborated more?
Well, I mean, there's tons of research out there just talking about diversity and groups, and even though it brings challenges to a group, I mean, it ends up making better results. So obviously working with other generations, building on each other's strengths, that's the big thing, is even though we don't all agree with everything, build on everybody's strengths. And so bringing that collaboration together can really enhance any project, and like I said, it brings experience to everybody. It kind of helps also bring a history to things if we work with the older generation. Sometimes I'll bring some great idea and it'll just get shot down. We have to understand, then if they explain, hey, well, this is why, we did this 15 years ago, and understanding the history. So that collaboration and communication between the generations can really help with understanding and moving forward.
And I'll kind of piggyback off of that, bringing an idea to the spicy group and having them just shoot it down. For this group here, we're like gung-ho, let's make this happen. And then it's like our puppy just got hit or something sometimes. So when we bring something to the spicy group, we don't want them to just knock it down. We want to collaborate and say, hey, why are you disagreeing? Why are we not moving forward? Oh, okay, X, Y, and Z happened last time. How can we change our plan, change the execution and how we did it last time, and actually make this work? So the collaboration, maybe 15 years ago when they did that project, they didn't have the SMEs, subject matter experts, in line that they needed. So that's kind of one thing with the spicy group, and we see it all the time. I know I do personally in my career, where things get shot down, and just because it gets shot down once, I just keep going back at them until we come to a conclusion that works. And so we have interns at our employment, and they're great resources for the new day and age. So how would you do it? I mean, they have some tools, some communication tools. I'm like, what's that? Like, oh, that's kind of cool. The stuff that we don't know, but they've been brought up with it. So collaborating with the different generations is key to the success of our community. Because as you sit here, this is what the community has, and this is the pipeline that we have coming up. So we all need to work together.
I just want to point out that they're not talking about this spicy group. There's some other spicies out there as well that listen to what they're saying.
I feel bad because I'm going to kind of take it from a different perspective, because I have a small business, and so we only have like 6 people, so we're pretty much all the same generation. But as far as collaboration goes with small businesses, it's really hard to get each small business to collaborate when they're like doing the same things. So I actually started a media company where I can take my collaboration skills, and actually we did it for Aubrey too, so I get to collaborate across generations, but teach people that the people who understand what you're going through best are the people who are doing what you're doing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I told you, I am a terrible public speaker. I have great ideas, I just can't say them. Yeah, so collaborating with the same businesses is a good idea too.
I think that collaboration with other generations is essential because we all have to work together, and we all have like different life experiences. Like my generation is better with technology, not always, but like we can show things and they can show us things too, to like help make things better, I guess.
I think that we can work with the older generations or the spicy generation, because they have more life experience. They know what can draw people into an idea, and they know what ideas people are going to accept and people are going to deny. And our generation and the middle generation can really help with like the marketing side of it, because we know what things are eye-catching on social media and flyers and things like that.
So I feel like all the generations, all of them, no matter whether it's the spicy generation, I'm just gonna call them the middle generation, or my generation, is that there's always something that can be learned, no matter how insignificant it may seem. A lot of my friends don't know how to cash a check or make a box of Kraft mac and cheese or speak with a financial advisor, but it's just the little things that every generation can learn from each other, that can just compile, that can turn someone who's my age, who may not know any of these things, and can really build them towards starting a brighter future and learning what it like truly means to be an adult and truly means to just be a citizen, I suppose.
So I think collaboration across generations is really important. My first full experience collaborating across generations was last year when I had to plan an event for the school. And it's really hard having to be leadership over people who are older than you. It's really hard. And so for the project, I had to go to someone older than me and have them sign off, but it was my project. And I think that's kind of important for the collaboration across generations, is that we have ideas right now, but we can't do it by ourselves. We need help of the older generations. So I think if you are in a situation where someone younger than you is the boss, just remember that they do have ideas and they're not trying to cut you out. They're still wanting your input and your feedback and your help.
We're arguing about who's going to go first over here. Guess I'm stuck. I think one of the things that's most important in collaborating across and why it's so important, at least in business for us, and it's something I've taken really, and we work hard at it, so we're telling men and with JP Mac, is, this is not about us individually. Whatever we're doing, it's about how that affects everyone in the entire community or everyone in the entire business and even our customer base. And so when we work together as a team, we're working to try to build an enduring and lasting business, not something that's going to just be here for a couple of years and then it's gone. Else, what are you working for? It shouldn't just be for a paycheck. It should be because there's meaning behind what you're doing. And so as a leader, we work hard to try to engage everyone across all generations, from even generations prior to us. We look to some of the legacy and the history about things that they experienced and things that they tried. And while it doesn't mean it won't work in the future, we want to find out how did they try it, so we don't waste a lot of effort and time doing it that same way and making those same mistakes. And then engaging the other newer generations and the younger generations, it's important there because we want this business to continue moving forward and to grow long term. And so when we're gone, we want there to be energy and excitement in other people that are still building up, and we want them to have that same impression or that same feeling about valuing other people's opinions. So it's really, to me, about if you want to build something for the short term, selfishly just for yourself, then don't listen to anybody else. If you want something that's going to last long term and really be a part of an entire community and something that's bigger than yourself and can go way beyond whatever you could do on your own, then collaborate with everyone.
Yeah, I think one of the differences in our generations is, like one of the groups said, they want things done now, instant gratification. And that is something they can learn from our generation, that's why we take things slow, because we've seen how they work or don't work or whatever. Not that we don't want instant gratification as well, but we understand there's a time frame to get to what we need to get to. And also, we had been taught, my generation, have been taught a fear of technology. Don't push that button, don't do that, you'll blow things up, so we're learning that's not true. But collaboration, obviously, this is a wonderful collaboration. That's what life is all about, is collaboration. And Randolph County United, I hope you all know what that is. I mean, that's why we're uniting. We're trying to unite communities and generations. And I think Randolph County United, honestly, we're on board. We can learn from that, but we need to involve these younger generations more, or want them to be involved. Hopefully they want to be part of us, so that we can get all these different opinions and resources.
So I love this question of, what could happen if there was more collaboration across the generations. And the first, you'll think this is silly, but the first thing that popped in my head was world peace. And you might go, but think about that. My world is public policy, so I'm in DC, I'm in the state capitol a lot. And think about our local leaders. When I was with Randolph County United, think about the average age of our elected officials. And that we're not getting anywhere. Okay, I'm not going to make this political, right? But I think this is a great question of what would happen if our elected leaders were more representative of the multiple generations that live in our country. If you're in DC, in the halls, it's the 20-somethings that are actually really doing the work and are the brains behind everything that's happening, but they're not in the leadership roles to make the final decisions. And so I think the beauty of collaboration across multiple generations really could literally change our country and change our world. And I don't know how to solve that problem, but I truly, truly believe that the collaboration among generations can make a significant impact on our world.
I would just say, I think we have to do more things like this, to understand each generation, and that we're all here trying to do our best. And I think we tend to forget about that. I know that there was a mention there about working harder versus working smarter. I'm a believer that the smarter you can work, right, the better off you're going to be, the more efficient you're going to be, and whatnot. But sometimes our generation doesn't see that, right, because we had to work hard. And then when we see them, we tell them, hey, we want it easier for you. But when we see them being smarter, right, we're like, hey, don't do that. You have to learn the lessons. And so, but I think that's a great point for all of us, is that each generation is trying their best. And I think we tend to forget about that sometimes, and we start to do that stereotype. So I'll look and see if there's any questions from the audience. If not, I got a few more here. But anybody want to ask anyone on the panel a question? I told you I need some help. Right, remember? There's going to be one individual who's going to help me out here today. Okay, I guess we're on our own, guys. So let's talk about a time when you actually had to work with another generation that they had kind of a narrow mindset, and what happened with that collaboration, and what did you try to change about that? So, and again, it's up for anybody, and we don't have to go through the whole line here. So, anybody want to step in and answer that question?
Shocking, right? I actually have a story about myself when I started my business, and I was meeting with Paul Faddis, and I just thought, I was like, he has every answer, but I was like, I don't want to run my business like that. I want to run my business with heart only. And what I found out is that is not possible. It's not. I wanted it so bad. I did that for 2 years until I realized that you have to have business in business too. And so now I'm learning that Paul was right. and I'm trying to find that balance. So that's, I don't even know, is he here?
He's in the back.
You're right, Paul.
All right, I'll go ahead and talk on this. In my prior years as a systems analyst, we did software implementations often. And the struggle is real between the generations and software. It's a real struggle. But what I found is when you bring those SMEs and those spicy generation in that have been there, done that, and you teach them the software, they oftentimes have really great ideas on how they can process items faster in the software, and it's crazy. They don't even realize that they have these great ideas of how they can make their jobs easier until you collaborate together and say, oh, this is what you're trying to accomplish. Well, let's go through this process in the system together. And then it's like a light bulb goes off, and then you get their buy-in. And buy-in is critical in implementations if anyone's been there, done that. So the collaboration in that instance was really critical to get the buy-in, which then gives a successful implementation.
Is it on? Yeah? Okay. So whenever I started playing football, it was kind of weird because the older generations had a really, really narrow mindset about it. Because I'd tell people and they'd be like, back in my day, they didn't let girls play football. And I'm like, here we are. So whenever I started playing, it was kind of hard to get the spicy generation to work with that idea. And it's still a newer idea that girls are playing football, and it can be difficult for them to understand that, just because they might not be understanding why I'd want to play or it makes sense to them. But I feel like once I did it, they really just opened up their mindset and they realized that I could play football, I could do it. So yeah, go spicy generation.
You're not gonna find us out there playing football. Too late.
Well, I want you to know that there is a spicier generation out there that the spicy has had to deal with, and also in calendar. I think that narrow-mindedness as we have, ventured through our careers. But I think the narrow-mindedness of, and I say this, maybe not so critically, but when we looked to join two chambers, when we created Randolph County United and joined two chambers, and then combined those chambers very quickly into an economic development partnership, and then tourism, which I can say is unheard of in the state, has gotten us state recognition and notice of how do you combine those entities and they play nice in the sandbox. Well, I can tell you it was not an easy transition. Believe it or not, there was maybe a little spicier generation. It's like, we've always had two separate chambers. We've always had economic development and chambers separate, or can we really put tourism in there together? And, it's that narrow mindset of, I think it's just that fear of change. So I hesitate a little bit saying it critically a narrow mindset. That's why I kind of started that out with it. It's just that we all have that innate fear of change. I don't care what generation, because we're wired that way. The fear of change. Some of us are more apt at it. Some of us embrace change better, a little younger, yeah. But I think that we just navigated that and took a step back and tried to appreciate where people were coming from and help people overcome that fear so we could join those two organizations. But I think if we just rested in that narrow mindset that was based on fear of change, we would have never created Randolph County United. And so it's just a matter of having people around us that were like, yeah, we can't do that go-to mindset that we need from those younger generations.
Good. Oh, thank you. I knew Chad would always rescue me.
I'm curious, can you recall, and I apologize, it sounds like an interview question, but can you recall a time when you were in one of these generations and you had a perception about the generation ahead of you or generations ahead of you, and at a point in time where you got to a point in life where you had a life experience that dispelled that notion, if that makes sense? Where you as time progressed, you're like, you know what? This is the way I used to think about them, but now that I'm going through that, it kind of changes my perception of what I used to think.
Chad, I think we probably all, as younger people, think we know it all, right? And we don't ever want to be, I remember that growing up. You don't want to listen to your parents or grandparents because I can figure it out. I'll do my own thing. And we all kind of wanted to do our own thing. I don't know if there was necessarily for me a moment in time where I could say the light bulb went off. It's probably a very gradual thing. Mom and Dad probably wish the light bulb had gone off, earlier. But, I think just as you experience more and more life, you realize that you're not in this alone and you can't do this by yourself. I mean, we're not intended to live life by ourselves. God would have only created one human, right? And so we are in this all together, and we have to figure out how to work together. And there's experience, not just in age, there's experience in circumstances and places in life and things that others are going through. Regardless of someone's age, it's important to gather opinions of everyone else. It can be gender, it can be race, it can be ethnicity, it can be people's just where they work and other things that they've been going through. And if we don't stop and work together and get that feedback, then we so limit ourselves and all of that we can accomplish as a whole community or individually. So for me, it was just, in many different organizations, I can always look back a number of times, and it's easy to look back and go, wow, I really screwed that up there. You don't see it at the moment when it's happening, but when you have those moments later to stop and reflect back, you can go, wow, I really blew it there, and I'm glad that I started learning or listening a little more later.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. It's that reflection time of yourself, and say, what could I have done better, right? And obviously, even the things that work out, you should go back and say, what could I have done better to do that? And as James like, the older I get to realize that, the more dumber I am. I thought I knew it all earlier in my life, but as I've gotten older, I've realized I have to rely on a lot of other people to bring me up. Yeah.
So I actually want to kind of add back onto the narrow-minded conversation. I think it's just something important to realize when narrow-mindedness can shut down the conversation and collaboration immediately. And the important thing for me to, express is that the person that is being narrow-minded, if you are perceived as the leader in this conversation, if you're the CEO and you're the one being narrow-minded, that has a much larger effect in the conversation, especially if you speak first. No Gen Z or first-year employee is going to speak up after you have said your piece first. So just be intentional about knowing, am I the leader in this conversation? Am I the most senior person? Let everybody else speak. Somebody that might not necessarily speak up first, maybe try to encourage those other people to speak first before you speak up, because your opinion will be perceived differently, knowing that you're the leader in that position.
Great point. Anybody else? Any other questions?
I have a question. As far as being a hiring manager, we have where there's turnover, there's like you look at an application and it's got 3 months, 2 months, 6 months. I mean, just a lot of where you can tell there's just a looking for that next best thing. But you also receive applications from, I've received them from each level here. So just wondering, what is your expectation? If you were the one applying for a job, and I don't have one right now, but anyway, I was going to say you can. But what is the expectation from each generation when going into a new job so that we can better stay engaged or career path you according to how you think and what you're wanting or desiring in that job?
Okay, I'll go first. So if I were to be applying for a job at this point in my career, I would be looking somewhere that I could drive change. In the roles that we're all in, we want, and I hope I'm not speaking for everybody, but we want to drive change. We're in these leadership roles because we have these ideas and we want to better the organization that we're working with. So it would be very important for me if I was applying somewhere to know what the expectations of that role are and what's the roadmap look like to get to that next step. To make sure that the organization that I would be applying with actually has that put together. so that you know what the next step is and that they know when they're hiring you what they expect you to do to get to that next level. Because if you come in and you, as the person applying, have this expectation of getting where you want to go, and the company you're applying to said, oh, that's great, can you tell us how you're going to get there? Because we don't know. So that would be a huge disconnect. So that's what someone, at least for me, I would be looking for in applying in another position.
That's my first thought. I mean, I just agree with everything she said. I think the number one, especially for the younger generations, they have to see a growth path. If they don't see it in the first month, they might already be checking out. And I think the first month is also extremely, extremely important. That time you take to train and show them how much you care about them shows that you're invested in their future, and that's gonna change their mindset for the next several years. If you don't care about them in the beginning, it's over already.
And I'll just add a thing or two on that, because really, I think from both sides of it, right? It's about the seat on the bus. Right? And sometimes, again, as our generation, we have certain seats, and they've been certain seats for the last 100 years, and we're not changing our seats on the bus. And as Mallory said, and as the younger generation will tell you, is that seat might not fit me. I may fit your company, and we have the same values that you have, but the seat's not right. And either you have to adjust the seat for them early on so they know that you're invested in them, right? So they can see there's a path forward. And we have a difficult time in manufacturing doing that, right? Because we have certain jobs that are certain jobs, and you can't do that. But there's a lot of cross-training that we can do and whatnot. So again, from an employer standpoint, you have to understand, especially when you start to see the younger generation where they job hop a little too much for our liking. But then you have to ask them, why did they job hop? Because what happens is when they had that interview and they accepted the position, and then they got there like, this isn't exactly what you said it was going to be. This is much different, and I'm not going to waste my time, because my time is valuable. And we don't necessarily see that from an employer standpoint, especially our generation don't see that. And so we have to understand that they're there, they are on a mission, they want to help your company, and it doesn't mean that it's that seat on the bus. You're gonna have to adjust the seats on the bus, and we talk about that a lot in Frank Miller, even though we've been around 120 years.
I think, oh my goodness. I think from, our generation, and I can only speak this because, I was somewhere for 21 years, and then I was 2.5, and now I jumped again, so I'm becoming a job hopper, right? But it wasn't because, I got a phone call. I thought I'd be at Randolph County for 21 years, but then, the Alliance called me and, I couldn't refuse, right? So, but when I met with the Alliance, when they called me and said, come in, we want to offer you this position, of course I didn't say yes right away. I actually said no at first, but my first question was, what impact can I make here? Because that's important, I think, for our generation as we're looking at retirement, and why, as we're ending our careers and finishing things up, what is that impact can we make? And so I think it's a little different, the youngers might make change and learning. I think, for me it was, what can I do to make a difference? Because, my time in this phase of my life is, not gonna be, a long time. So I think that might be, something to talk to people about, of the seasoned. I'm going seasoned, not spicy. I'm not sure I'm spicy.
You're right. Your inner self is a little more spicy than what you want people to believe.
When we started setting up Home Depot stores in Indianapolis, we had to hire 600 people in a very short period of time for 4 stores to staff them. I remember my wife and I, we had just moved back to the area, and we did a job fair, had a bunch of people come in and apply, and we went back to the apartment that evening, sat down with a stack about this tall of paper applications. This was back when you had to write things on paper. And we were going through these, and my wife was helping me kind of pre-screen the applications first. And the first thing I told her was, I don't want someone that's just been jumping and hopping from job to job to job. Look for someone that's been in a job for at least 2 years. And so that was kind of our first pre-screen to try to weed down the stack a little bit. and get to that. And she came across an application, and she's kind of puzzled, and I can see her just staring at it for a while, and she says, I don't understand this. And she says, well, they've been at this job for about 3 years, and then they were a dishwasher for like 2 years, and then they were in the laundromat for like 1.5 years, and she said, but it looks like it was all at the same address. And so I'm like, let me look at it, because I'm thinking, well, that's 6 or 7 years all in the same place. And I'm like, oh, it's Pendleton. There's a penitentiary in Pendleton. And it turns out this person they had been in a penitentiary for like 7 years or whatever, and they were showing the different jobs. Turns out, we actually interviewed this gentleman, and he actually turned out to be a great employee. And so one of the things that I think I learned from that experience, and I encourage my management team and others to think about this as well as we reflect on things, is tenure in itself is not, while we look for longer tenure, there usually always is a reason why someone job hopped. Someone's moving around. I tell our management team a lot that when someone leaves us, I ask the question, what did we do wrong? Because we either didn't set the table properly, we didn't, as you said, maybe we misrepresented the job to them of what they thought it was going to be when they came in, or we didn't train them properly. And so something we didn't do did not fulfill them, and they felt like there's going to be better fulfillment somewhere else. So I think it's important to, while we might want to find some people that are planning to stay here for a long period of time, I think there's also value in bringing people in that are just going to work hard. And even if they have a plan to go somewhere else in 2 years because they have a bigger life plan, they can still contribute to their team, to our team. So I think it's important just to look across all things, give someone an opportunity at least to come in and sit down and interview and talk together and find out the story behind what we see on the paper, because it's not always what we think it is. There's usually something else there.
Doris?
If you could take one thing from another generation that you know you use consistently for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Could you guys hear that?
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
I think something I would actually take from the younger generation in that I think millennials, like everybody goes through it, by the way. Like every generation, you just have to remember, like time will pass. Millennials used to be the worst in the world, and now we're most of the workforce, and people don't really talk about us too much anymore. But so, anyways, but I think as generations have come through, the thing that I would take most is purpose. I think as generations go on, the youngest generation, they really are looking for purpose over just working hard. So that's what I would take. I mean, life, like, I can't remember your name, sorry, but that's what life's about. If you don't have purpose, you don't have relationships, your family, you know, what are we doing? So purpose is over everything.
Do we have to use this?
No, you don't have to. You can.
It gives me anxiety. I think that's
I don't use it, so you're
what I would take would be the failures and the lessons from the spicy people, because that is where like all the knowledge we need to know pretty much is. You can analyze it. I don't know, is that an option? Are we allowed to take that? I think that would be my thing, because knowledge before you have to go through it gives you an advantage, because you can just analyze it and kind of skip through it, which is the great part about just getting advice from them in general.
Oh, it's on. One thing I just really admire about the spicy generation is just their persistence and ability just to rebound after like anything. I mean, they've seen some things. I mean, I don't remember which company it is, but you know that we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. We are whether it was the 08, 09 housing crisis or that whatever happened in the 80s. They're still here today, and they have ultimately enough rebounded from whatever happened, and they've gotten back on their feet. And it's really something that I aspire to achieve and attain in my life, is the ability to, whatever 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now, whatever life throws at me, to learn from the people who raised me and learn just really what it means to rebound. But, I don't know.
So I have this really cool and unique opportunity that I get to work with a lot of businesses and a lot of you that are in here, and I know for sure that you guys want to impact the younger generation. So my question is for the younger generation. You have a room full of people who want to invest in you, and you have a community full of people in Randolph County that want to invest in you. And we think that we know what the best ways are. But what do you see as the ways that you want your community and your businesses to support you? Is it with money or time or expertise, or what do you see as the best way for us to invest in you?
So I think you guys have a lot of great life experience and life advice, but how you get life experience and life advice is truly by living. So I think one thing to remember is that you do have to let us live a little bit. Like, we appreciate your advice and we're going to take it, but we're also probably still going to do what we want in the end. I wouldn't get overly disappointed. It's not because we don't appreciate your guys' advice, but truly the only way to learn is by living. I know, like, I'll go home at the end of the day and I'll just be talking to my mom, telling her about my day, and then it'll turn into a life lesson, and I'm like, wait, this is not what I signed up for. I was just talking. So I think it's important to remember that we do want your advice and we will take it, but don't get offended when we don't do what you say, because the only way that we're going to learn is if we get to make mistakes for ourselves.
I think also giving us time, like investing time in us, if that makes sense, just so we feel like purpose within that community or group, and that we really feel like we're really just a part of that organization, because they might split up into groups based on generations, and if you're the only one in the younger generation, you're not going to have anyone to like cling to during that time. So I feel like just giving us your time, making us feel a part of that group. I think that's all I got.
Other questions? All right, so we'll talk about the elephant in the room and stereotypes. So what I want each generation to do is talk about stereotypes about your generation and what you do that is not stereotypical for your generation. So we can start with the younger.
Okay, so I think one thing about our generation is that we typically get seen as very ungrateful and unappreciative of what people have done. Like, I've heard, like, we've blazed the trail for you and then you're not going to do anything with it. And that's not really the case. It's that you guys have blazed the trail, so now we want to make our own trails too. And we do appreciate where you guys have gotten us and the opportunities that we have because of you guys. I know, especially me, because I want to go into the medical field, I'm very appreciative of the women who came before me so that I can do that. And I think our generation is often seen as ungrateful, and that's just not really the case.
I had to think about that for a second. So every day when I go home from school, kind of like Audrey said, my mom tries to, as I'm telling her my day, she tries to mom-splain everything for me. I've always felt like whether she'll say it or not, there's been some sort of level where she feels that I won't understand what she's saying. And the truth is, I do understand, but to build off what Audrey said earlier, we're different. Times have changed, whether it's through pop culture or through politics or just through the world we live in general. We just need to learn to adapt for ourselves, because that's what the generations before us have done, whether it's the spicy generation or, well, I was called the mild generation. Pico de Gallo. But it's time for us to adapt, and the generations that come after us, there will be things that life throws at them, and I don't feel it's our place to tell them what life should be necessarily.
I think a major stereotype for our generation is that we're always on our phones. If you go into the schools, you're going to see that we're like 90% of us are really hardworking. We're not on our phones. We're trying to get things done so we can have like a brighter future for ourselves. And if you see a lot of people on their phones, they're likely working. Like I know my mom does a lot of work from her phone because she's a marketer. She has to do that. And if you're going to be in the social media side of things, you're going to have to do that. You can't write a letter for marketing. It's just not going to work.
I also think a stereotype for our generation is that we're lazy. I know a lot of people like that don't work, but there are a lot of people that do. Like I've worked since I was really young and just trying to like build a future for myself. And I think that to stereotype us all as lazy isn't fair. But yeah.
No, but I don't know what my answer is. I don't know what stereotypes for our generation are anymore, because sometimes I feel like that generation and sometimes I feel like this generation, and so I kind of don't even listen to. I guess the only stereotype I have in my life is tattoos. That people who get tattooed don't know how to do anything. They're just lazy. But really, tattoos cost more than most people's belongings. So that's the only stereotype. It's not a generational one. It's just, I mean, maybe so, because we pretty much are the only generation that does that. But no.
Well, I thought you were going to say that not everyone's Karens.
Oh, I already said that at the beginning. I'm probably the only Karen you'll ever see with a throat tattoo.
I am kind of perplexed at what you guys think of us too. So I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and say that we are hard workers. We do work smart and we do work hard. However, I feel like our generation has gotten this new work-life balance that we strive for. And no one should fault us for that. As long as we are getting our work done to the expectations that it needs to get done, then when we leave at 5 o'clock and we have to go get the kids and take them to practice, then you should say good for you for being able to juggle everything that we do. Because our generation, we are working moms that, when we leave work, I feel like we go to another job that's 50 times harder most of the time. So that work-life balance, I feel like is really important to us. So if we come in at 9 o'clock and leave at 5 o'clock, don't judge. Because you know what? We're probably on our phones answering emails at 9 p.m. after we put the kids to bed. So that would just be my little nugget there.
I'll use that because I feel like
You're soft-spoken.
yeah. I think, again, when we were in the hot seat, the millennials, the number one word that I heard for our generation was entitled. We were the entitled generation, so that was our stereotype. And stereotypes are really built in certain things, and I think it goes back to the whole, we're the generation that focused on the work-life balance. So, and we're the generation that started probably job hopping more because so we were entitled. We deserved more pay. We deserved this. But a lot of good things come out of those things as time progressed. Look what happened. I mean, COVID really catapulted it. But look how important work-life balance is to every generation, now. So sometimes, obviously I think stereotypes are rooted in some truths, but there are a lot of good that can come out of them.
Okay, yeah, our generation is known for working hard, and honestly, we see that work-life balance in your generations, and in my opinion, we're kind of envious of it. We wish we would have thought of that. Because you guys are doing great for your employers, you're doing great for your families, and kudos to you. So, one thing about the younger generation that I went to the Workforce Wednesday at Union City High School the other day with Paul Battis. And wow, that was amazing. And these kids, we think they're always on their phones or they can't communicate, but they can and they want to. They wanted to present to us They wanted feedback from us. I mean, it was just awesome. And so we learned a lot that day, or at least I did. But one thing I will say is that when we do try to advise you guys, we're just doing it for your benefit. We want the next generation to be better than ours. We want you guys to have benefits that we didn't get. So that's why we're trying to help you out. So.
The only thing I would say that, probably a stereotype of our generation, or even the spicier generation, is that we're stuck in our ways. And I think, kind of going back to the last question, what would we like to rob from another generation would be energy. Truthfully though, I mean, realize as well, we've experienced a lot of life already. I hope that I still have a lot of life left. But at a certain point in your life, you, rather than looking at the beginning and everything you have going forward, you start looking at the end and back to where you're at right now and go, there's not as much time left as there was when we started. What do I still need to get done? And what do we want to do? And so it becomes more about not wasting time. And so there are ideas and things that others sometimes will bring to us that I have to pause often and give the group the benefit of just experiencing that. Whereas selfishly, I might say, I don't want to waste a lot of time because I may not have a lot of time left. So I think it's one of the things, just perspective-wise, from other generations to understand about us as the older we get, and you will experience this as well one day, is your perspective of things will change, and your value on time and what you do with that time will also change.
I want to hit on, you got one?
I was just going to say as well, as you were saying, change, talking about, balancing kids, now we're experiencing our generations of, now becoming caretakers and of our parents, right? And so, balancing that. I know it's something, it's been kind of forced in my lap very recently, but, about, how do we juggle now our work and taking care of our parents, right, and do that, and that we need help from the younger generations and the middle generations to help us navigate that, and that almost this weird work-life balance that is, I thought I had it figured out when I had my kids, but now I'm going to navigate parents, and how do I do that? And so I think that's where you said, what do we need from the younger generations? Help us figure that balance out.
Yeah, I do. Oh, hang on. I just want to make a shout out to all the schools out there. Cheryl said it about the Workforce Wednesdays at Union City. There's a group, P-TECH in Winchester, that we are a part of. And again, I think that you can't understand how significant it is that the schools are partnering with industry. Again, a lot of us, older generation, coming into the schools and interacting with them and sharing that. Again, we had a project with P-TECH, gave them 2 weeks to do a marketing campaign, which anybody that's tried to do a marketing campaign in 2 weeks, it's pretty daunting, right? And the kids come in there was 12 of them, 6 groups. They all made PowerPoint presentations. They all did the research, and they all presented ideas to us. So again, what they're doing in the school system has to be commended and has to be recognized from everybody, because that's the change that we need here in this county.
I just kind of wanted to piggyback a little bit on that last conversation. The first generation here talked about their parents, and we turn into life lessons through every comment. I kind of want to just steer you in the reason that happens. When you become pregnant and you have your first child, you make every decision for that child, from what you eat so you don't get heartburn when you're pregnant, to the child's born, what are you going to feed it, what kind of food, when, and you teach them every single thing. And I think what, as parents, have a hard time doing is establishing when to stop parenting, and that's hard, because then you get to this middle generation who now has children and they're learning that, and then you get to the spicy generation who's like, wow, I don't have to do that anymore, and then your parents become your child. And so it's this vicious cycle that we all have done, and I'm looking at each one of your faces as I'm saying that, because you're all understanding what I'm saying. and you'll get there, and it's difficult to know when to stop parenting, and when do you stop giving them advice, and I shouldn't say advice, because I always give advice, but it's more of boundaries, and if you do this, this is what's gonna happen, if you do this, this is what's gonna happen, and you choose. Try to get there, it's hard. It's hard.
Has she ever stopped parenting?
That's my mom. Just continuing on that conversation. You do get to a point. I remember when I had Charlotte and I called my mom and I was like, I'm so sorry. You were right about everything. But you transition, and when you're younger, there's a point where you resist because you think, oh, everything's different. But what they're trying to tell you, the core values are consistent. Throughout time and generation, the core values will not change. The circumstances of how things around you are changing in life and technology and all of that. But the core values are not changing. And then you transition to a point where I want the advice, I'm like, well, now I realize. So then I call my mom, too many times a week and ask for the advice. So there is a cycle. We welcome it now.
Any questions? Time for one more.
I've got a comment.
All right, sure.
To me, I think there's an interesting parallel between parenting and leadership, because you work so hard at those foundational or infant stages in the hope that you're helping groom someone to take that lead and to take the reins and to move forward and to be everything you hope they can be. And then it's not like you completely take your hands off, because you're always in the shadows willing to offer advice or guidance or wisdom, but it's their time now. And I think that's the parallel, at least in my feeble mind, between parenting and leadership, is there is that, I don't know, there's that similar path that you follow.
Again, leadership is influence, right? Pure and simple, it's influence. As a parent, you're influencing your child. In fact, you're influencing your siblings, all over the place, your community and whatnot. So, but it is, parenting is leaders, right? And I think and I'm glad that it's now introduced into the schools, that leadership is not about a position, right? Leaders are not just heads of companies, right? Leadership is from everybody, because you have influence over somebody, each one of us. And how you use that influence really determines your legacy, and hopefully it'll determine their legacy as well. Any other things? All right, well, again, I want to thank
I was just going to say, Chad, I think you're exactly right, and I think with Steve, as you were saying, influence, what just struck me was to make sure that it's that reverse influence. We let the other generations influence us, right? That those are in season. It's not the parents, not down. It's fluid, right? It's back and forth. And I think about my daughter, that she has made me a better person being her mom. And I'm definite that she raised me more than I raised her. And so I think if we allow that or are open to that, that's when we're going to see the beauty of our world changing, if we let the influence be fluid.
All right. Well, that will conclude the panel. Again, a big round of applause for all our panelists. I hope everybody took something out of this, because if you were listening, right, and did what I asked you to do, right, and change your mindset a little bit and ask that question, I think that you got out of every generation here that they all want to be supportive of each other. They all want to lead each other. And again, I think that we have a bright future ahead of us, certainly here in Randolph County. John will be on here in about 8 minutes. So we can grab, looks like there's still a few treats over there for breakfast. Grab yourself something, and then we'll head into the theater.